purchased today. It's been on my... I've been meaning to read this for a long time, and buying it, I finally did it today. It's a very well-known book, and a lot of people have been helped by it. I think it came out in 1997, and it started off very small beginnings, of the author Eckhart Tolle distributing copies of the book himself to local bookstores, and then it took a while, but it eventually took off. Okay, so using his own personal transformation, Tolle teaches us how to embrace our true selves and learn how to be healthier and happier by living in the present moment, in the now. We learn that we can find our way out of psychological pain. That authentic human power is found by surrendering to the now, that the silence and space all around us are the keys to entering inner peace. In the now, the present moment, problems do not exist. In the now, we discover that we are already complete and perfect. Another reason I picked up this book was I've had a lot of trouble with depression and anxiety. I make no secret of that in my videos, and it's a very horrible thing to go through. It helps talking about it, it helps making videos about it. It's cathartic to make that, and hopefully it helps other people. But I'm really hoping this book makes a difference. I hope I will learn from it, and if it's good enough for Oprah Winfrey, it's good enough for me. So let's just open it up. To begin with, I'm not one of these people who reads a lot of self-help books and like spiritual guidance books. I just know that it sounds like it's the only thing you need. The thing with depression and anxiety is that it's with you 24/7, and even when you try and enjoy yourself, it's still there, trying to make your life miserable. It's a pattern of thinking, and it plagues your mind and your thinking, and literally affects every single aspect of your life. And I've tried many different things. I've tried many different medications, and nothing has really worked. It might have worked for a little while, but it doesn't really help. So, and psychologists and psychiatrists, I've tried everything. But you have to do a lot of work for yourself as well, because you're living in that thing, your brain. You're fighting against your brain, or at least trying to tell your brain to mechanism like the brain would try and sabotage your wanting success in life. I just don't get it. And that's what I've been struggling with. And always focuses on the bad things. And it could have a lot to do with your upbringing and experience in society. Some days I just don't even want to go outside and see another human being. It's just that bad. I was never like this as a kid. I was very, very accepting and loving and had a great sense of humour. And it's just over time, well, time and experience bashes you over the head so many times, and you're exhausted by it. So, where all else fails, you really have to find out your own way of dealing with things, and I'm on that journey. I'm sure a lot of other people are as well, and especially after last year with the coronavirus and the shitstorm that it brought on. It's a new world, and it's a world that I really fucking hate. And I'm hoping that I can learn to adjust. But I guess people all throughout history have had to deal with this. I did read this earlier and it really stuck out to me, so I'm going to read it again. The origin of this book. Can you see that properly? I have little use for the past and rarely think about it. However, I would briefly like to tell you how I came to be a spiritual teacher and how this book came into existence. Until my 30th year, I lived in a state of almost continuous anxiety interspersed with periods of suicidal depression. It feels now as if I'm talking about some past lifetime or somebody else's life. One night, not long after my 29th birthday, I woke up in the early hours with a feeling of absolute dread. I had woken up with such a feeling many times before, but this time it was more intense than it had ever been. The silence of the night, the vague outlines of the furniture in the dark room, the distant noise of a passing train. Everything felt so alien, so hostile, and so utterly meaningless that it created in me a deep loathing of the world. Kind of how I feel right now. The most loathsome thing of all, however, was my own existence. What was the point in continuing to live with this burden of misery? Why carry on with this continuous struggle? I could feel that a deep longing for annihilation, for non-existence, was now becoming much stronger than the instinctive desire to continue to live. And if you take a look at Reddit and any of that, and you just read through the amount of suicidal people on there, or maybe people who aren't even suicidal, they're just wanting help, but they're not getting it from anywhere. It's just very saddening. So, I'll continue on. I cannot live with myself any longer. This was the thought that kept repeating itself in my mind. Then suddenly I became aware of what a peculiar thought it was. Am I one or two? If I cannot live with myself, must be two of me, the I and the self that I cannot live with. Maybe I thought only one of them is real. Excuse me while I take a sip of coffee. I was so stunned by this strange realization that my mind stopped. I was fully conscious, but there were no more thoughts. Then I felt drawn into what seemed like a vortex of energy. It was a slow movement at first and then it accelerated. I was gripped by an intense fear and my body started to shake. I heard the words, "Resist nothing," as if spoken inside my chest. I could feel myself being sucked into a void. It felt as if the void was inside myself rather than outside. Suddenly there was no more fear, and I let myself fall into that void. I have no recollection of what happened after that. I was awakened by the chirping of a bird outside the window. I had never heard such a sound before. My eyes were still closed, and I saw the image of a precious diamond. Yes, if a diamond could make a sound, this is what it would be like. I opened my eyes. The first light of dawn was filtering through the curtains. Without any thought, I knew that there is infinitely more to light than we realize. That soft luminosity filtering through the curtains was love itself. Tears came into my eyes. I got up and walked around the room. I recognized the room, and yet I knew that I had never truly seen it before. Everything was fresh and pristine, as if it had just come into existence. I picked up things, a pencil, an empty bottle, marveling at the beauty and aliveness of it all. That day I walked around the city in utter amazement at the miracle of life on earth, as if I had just been born into this world. Now I'm going to stop and say I kind of had the same experience the second time I took LSD, and I felt like I'd been reborn, and tears were coming out of my eyes during a moment when I was listening to music. I think I was listening to Beach House, the band Beach House, and there's one beautiful song that they have, and I was listening to it, and I was walking through a park with my headphones on. I was with a group of people, but at that moment I had my headphones on, and I just had incredible feelings of love for the world and everything, and astonishment of life. And I wish I could feel that way. I'm feeling that way right now, remembering it, but I wish I could feel that way all the time. But as he describes this, it's kind of what I felt. So I kind of know that feeling. And it is possible for anyone to have that feeling as well. I believe it. For the next 5 months, I lived in a state of uninterrupted deep peace and bliss. After that, it diminished somewhat in intensity, or perhaps it just seemed to because it became my natural state. I could still function in the world, although I realized that nothing I ever did could possibly add anything to what I already had. I knew, of course, that something profoundly significant had happened to me, but I didn't understand it at all. It wasn't until several years later, after I had read spiritual texts and spent time with spiritual teachers, that I realized that what everyone was looking for had already happened to me. I understood that the intense pressure of suffering that night must have forced my consciousness to withdraw from its identification with the unhappy and deeply fearful self, which is ultimately a fiction of the mind. This withdrawal must have been so complete that this false suffering self immediately collapsed, just as if a plug had been pulled out of an inflatable toy. What was left was my true nature as the ever-present I am, consciousness in its pure state prior to identification with form. Later, I also learned to go into that inner timeless and deathless realm that I had originally perceived as a void and remained fully conscious. I dwelt in states of such indescribable bliss and sacredness that even the original experience I had just described pales in comparison. A time came when, for a while, I was left with nothing on the physical plane. I had no relationships, no job, no home, no socially defined identity. I spent almost 2 years sitting on park benches in a state of the most intense joy. But even the most beautiful experiences come and go. More fundamental, perhaps, than any experience is the undercurrent of peace that has never left me since then. Sometimes it is very strong, almost palpable, and others can feel it too at other times. It is somewhere in the background like a distant melody. Later people would occasionally come up to me and say, "I want what you have. Can you give it to me or show me how to get it?" And I would say, "You have it already. You just can't feel it because your mind is making too much noise." That answer later grew into the book that you are holding in your hands. That is really profound, and I think we just get caught up with too much fucking noise in the world, and the media especially that we consume, and from following politics and over the past year and all this craziness, it's, to quote Woody Harrelson in Natural Born Killers, the media is it's man-made weather, and it's just there to destroy our minds. I think we all have that ability to reach that plane of enlightenment that Eckhart Tolle talks about here. And even just making this video right now, there's a lot of noise going on, dogs barking, police in the background. I feel at peace just talking into this microphone and reading this book, and that's all I've got. The world outside creeps in occasionally, but that peace is always there, and I think that's what we have to come away with from reading books like this. That's I'm only up to the 6th page. I haven't read any further, but it's really, really interesting, and I'm gonna read this slowly and take it all in, because I really need help like this. Some days I just feel like I don't have the energy to continue on anymore, and that's not what life is about. No one should have to experience that. I didn't always feel this way. this horrible feeling. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this relaxed you, and give it a like, share it, subscribe, because it really means a lot and helps the channel find